Hey, gun people. Well, I don't know if this made national news or not. Guy went over and shot up the federal building, and the media is pretty much kind of blacked it out. I can't find anything about, they never, when the shooter is a leftist, left wing, all about hating everybody, they never want to release things about him. They only release it and cover it if they can run their right wing, crazy Trump supporter, anti minority, anti border crap. So I don't know anything about this guy. They've pretty much kept it quiet. They released his name. I haven't seen fake post. I haven't seen motive. Nothing. Just looking at the guy. Supposedly, I think I did hear he did 2 years and got out of the Army as a PFC. I think I remember hearing something like that from some news source. Because then they can connect it to the vets. That's the only thing they said. Because then they can push their, all vets are PTSD and all vets shouldn't own guns. And if we can disarm the vets, then we can get guns from the rest of the people and nobody will fight us. But anyway, I digress. This guy looks like a sloppy fool. He's got shit hanging. Any type of tactical op that you're doing, when you have things like this hanging, it gets caught on things, it gets hung up. I don't know if that's a sling and it broke. He's carrying a gun with one hand with a magazine in the other. There's still a magazine in. Why would you pull a magazine out before removing your mag that's in the gun? So tactically wise, this guy looks like a buffoon. And then his whole operation tactically is kind of foolish. And they've got some video footage of him running around. Let's go ahead and look at some of that. So in this footage, it shows him, here's the suspect. He runs up to the door and he puts a bunch of rounds through the doors. And I think some people return. Now, I'm going to talk about in this video a little bit about hardened targets versus soft targets. And for those people who don't understand that, a hardened target is a improved target. It's well guarded. It's harder to get to. It's harder to penetrate. It's harder to take over. That's why it's called a hardened target. Soft targets are gun-free zones. Schools with kids who don't fight back. With teachers who are liberal left, don't believe in guns and believes everything should be handled with hugs. Those are soft targets. Those are what usually people hit. If you're going to hit a hard target like a federal building, they have one way in, they have doors, they have concrete, they have barriers so you can't drive vehicles up. They have armed guard on the inside. I know they have people with guns. It's so crazy. The government tells everybody, you don't need a gun, we'll protect you. But all their buildings and all their important people have people with guns guarding them. But the schools don't. But your kids aren't important, Anyway, so he goes in and hits a hardened target. He never penetrates it. He tries to shoot from the outside, and then he runs off when he takes fire. So tactically wise, this guy's just a fool. They're not releasing what his motivation was, why he did it. Did he have a target? Did he just want to run up here, put some rounds through the building, say, screw the government, I'm tired of paying your taxes and having your boot on my neck, and then run off and die? Because he gets shot in the chest and he dies. So here's some video footage of his big attack on a federal building. One dude with a gun doesn't hit or kill anybody, and he gets killed.
Shooting down here right now. Shots fired, shots fired. We got SWAT coming through. Holy crap.
Okay, so somebody started returning fire and he took off. He ends up taking a couple of rounds. He runs out and drops in a parking lot here. This guy obviously is yelling shots fired, which absolutely means nothing. He's just watched a lot of TV and video games. He's not calling 911. He's not talking on a radio. He's just saying shot fires into the video. But at least he's videotaping. And the guy runs off here.
Oh. Shots fired.
Those are people returning fire. Those are people with guns who are allowed to defend themselves, making the bad guy with a gun run away. No, Rick, it's the gun's fault. No, there's not good guns and bad guns. There's good guys and bad guys. And both can have guns. And if you're faced with a bad guy with a gun and you don't have one, you're a victim. And these guys, because it's the federal building, because the government protects government, so they have people with guns at their buildings, but they don't want you having a gun at your building or at your home or with your family. So these guys return fire. He ends up taking a couple rounds, and he goes down in between some cars here. And he drops. And that's pretty much where they find him later. Now, in this video, they got a cam on a cop who comes out, and they're looking for the guy. Because you know what they were doing when they were getting shot at? They were taking cover, even though they had guns. So, because that's just survival. I mean, people who tell you that government will protect you, it's not true. Government protects itself. People are government. People with guns are going to protect themselves. They're not going to run blindly into fire. So anyway, these guys were hiding, so nobody knows where he ran. The person they're asking and the person they're telling is there's one dude that was out there photographing, and he got caught by the building. So when they come out, he's still hiding in the corner, and he tells them they didn't go this way, which he is correct, but they really don't listen.
Where's he at? Sir, point! Where'd he go?
He didn't go past me.
Did he go in the garage?
No, he didn't go past me. No, he was here. No, he was here and came
He's
this
out
way.
Here.
Straight.
Which way did he go?
No, he didn't come past me.
Yes, he did. He came right down here. Is he in the
I know, but he stopped here.
Is he in the
I was there. He didn't pass me. I scared the.
Sure.
The woman wants to argue. Yes, he did. And the guy who was outside said, no, he didn't. So, never mind. Here we go.
Did he go inside?
Okay, so I've talked about this before. Oh, that dude's bald. He's just like waiting to jump on him. Oh, he's kind of bald too. Let's beat him up too. Anyway, he's probably bald under that hat. So this guy right here, the U.S. Marshal, irritates the hell out of me. Carry damn rubber gloves with you. I just can't believe anybody in law enforcement doesn't have a set of rubber gloves with them to go out there and do their job. And he has to ask this guy for gloves, and this guy has to stop first aid to get gloves out to give to him. He looks like he's got some medical training because he's talking about getting a chest sealed.
Turn back. You got one coming this side right here. I don't see another one there. You got any itch gloves? You got one down. They're searching the parking lot. Itch gloves?
You got no damn gloves. Oh, here. Let me, as a cop, because I'm prepared and I carry freaking extra sets, I'll go ahead and provide them to you because you're incompetent. Oh, that irritates me.
Let me get a chest seal.
All the U.S. Marshals must have to wear tan pants. He's got a t-shirt. He's got a long sleeve shirt. Oh, he's got a helmet. He's got his vest. All their protective gear. He's got his gun out in his suit and his tie. Lots of guns here. Rick, I thought guns were bad and they were evil and they... Yeah, I know. That's because you're an idiot and you're listening to the freaking government and left-wing propaganda because they don't want citizens being able to defend themselves. Notice how government can defend themselves. They can shoot back at people shooting at them, trying to stab them, trying to rob, rape. They can protect their families because they're government. But they keep telling you, the pesky citizens who pay taxes, you don't need a gun. We'll protect you. We need the guns. We should be the only ones with guns. Man, it's so prevalent to me. Everything I see in my everyday life just screams the crazy gun. We got to get the guns. The government wants the guns. If government treats us the way they do when we have guns, imagine how they're going to treat us when we don't. But anyway, I think there was one other article. Here, I guess they have a couple of pictures. Again, there's not a whole bunch of detail. They kind of give I think he's 22. They talked to a neighbor. Here was his army photo. Here's what he looks like now. The thing I wanted to discuss about hardened targets versus soft targets. From a tactical perspective, this dude's a wreck. But anyway, the concrete barrier is going to stop cars. Obviously, if you want to penetrate a hardened target, a vehicle is usually a great thing to use. You just ram it and go. I'm assuming they got steel pipes underneath this concrete. I've seen a car hit poles like this, and they usually don't move. The car just crumples around it. So if they put these out there, a car's probably not going through the building. You could collapse the structure, maybe make it unstable, cause a panic. If a car went in there, people would come running out. The difference between tactical speaking, hitting a hardened target and a soft target is on hardened targets, people are safer inside a hardened target. So your tactical goal would be to get them out of the hard target. This dude, if he really wanted to do damage, and I mean terrorists know this and they're going to do it in the future, and you're going to be a victim if you're not thinking, he could have easily pulled the fire alarm, called in a false fire alarm, called in a bomb threat. And then what happens when you do that? They evacuate the building. Now you get all your victims out of the hardened target and you get them out on the streets. Hell, he could have just ran them over as they were all piling out. You say bomb in the building and everybody comes running out, and then you sitting there with a rented ride or truck, or you steal a bus or whatever else they can do. You get a large vehicle and you just plow through and you take out a whole bunch more than a gun with a mean 30-round magazine. And of course, they're calling a gun an assault rifle in here. When cops and government use the same gun, it's called a patrol rifle. But when a citizen uses it, it's an assault rifle. Same gun, same bullet, same everything. It's all about terminology to make people believe that citizens are bad and evil and should not have guns. Only government should have guns. Again, soft targets, soft targets, you can go in, you can penetrate easy. It's not guarded. There's no guns. There's usually helpless victims, and you've got a whole bunch of people you can shoot. That's why people are shooting up mosques. They're shooting up schools. They're shooting up these soft targets that aren't hardened. A federal building that's hardened, I mean, it's kind of a suicide mission if you just want to run in there because you know they got guns, they got metal detectors, not going to get through. Call in a bomb threat, you set the place on fire, you call in, you say there's a fire, you wait till closing time at 5 when everybody goes home, and all your victims come out of the hardened target. So hardened targets, tactically wise, and terrorists know this, and they're going to do it. So if you're in a hardened target, don't drop your guard when you leave thinking, oh, there's a bomb inside the building, I'll just run out to my car. There's a fire and the fire department said we have to evacuate, so I'll just run out in the car. You should always be thinking tactically like, hey, could this be a setup to get us out of this hardened target? If you work or operate in a hardened target, your sense of awareness ought to go up when you leave that because you're much more vulnerable. Like I said, if this guy had pulled the fire alarm or put somebody in there to pull the fire alarm, went in the bathroom, he could have pulled the fire alarm himself, then ran out to his car, got his stuff, and when everyone else piled out, he would no longer have a hardened target. All of his victims or targets would be outside in the open to be run over by cars, to be, thrown gasoline from the rooftops and light on fire, Molotov cocktail. I mean, there's a lot of ways that people are in threat, and they think, oh, if I'm in a building, well, I'm just protected. See, it stopped them. Wow, good. I'm good government. Well, people leave these hardened targets and they forget. Just because they leave the building doesn't make them a target anymore. And just to follow up on this, they just did yesterday, some guy parked a car in front of this building. He took an 18-wheeler truck and he took a big break, so he parked it in front of there. Well, somebody saw it parked there, went into immediate panic. They evacuated the building. They blocked off the street. They ran everybody out of every other building because a dude parked because he wanted to take a break because there was a truck outside. That is the definition of terrorism. Terrorism is to create terror to advance a political cause. So this guy unknowingly parked his truck, but because terror was already instilled in government, They had to evacuate, 400 FBI agents. They were looking at the cars. They called out the bomb squad. They tied up traffic. Nobody could get to work because the guy at 8 a.m. parked his truck to go get something to eat. And everybody went into panic. Anyway, this was the Dallas shooting. Again, I don't know if it made national news or how much it's getting covered. It's pretty big here in Dallas and Texas. I'm right by Dallas, so it's pretty big news around here. Hopefully you got something out of it, and this guy's a mess. I don't know what they're teaching in the Army, but as a PFC and 2 years in the Army, his tactics are just deplorable. He's a real deplorable. All right, we'll end that there.